Welcome to Disrupt You. This is the show where we'll hear what changes are headed to colleges and universities in all departments. We'll learn what innovation really means in higher education.
Welcome back to Disrupt You. It has been a minute. We are excited to have you back. I am Erin Boswell. Who the heck are you?
And I am the metaverse version of Dr. York. And right now, what I'm looking like in my world is Chris Hemsworth. I chose to make myself look like Chris Hemsworth. And that's what I look like to you right now, right?
No, you look like a guy with some VR goggles on.
Absolutely. Welcome back. Hey, Aaron, we've got a good interview today.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So we got Joseph Lapin. He's vice president of marketing and brand strategy at Archer Education. Now, I've worked with Joseph quite a bit and his team over at Archer, rock stars. So they go into organizations with the universities and colleges and think about their branding, marketing, admissions, retention, especially forward thinking. Though. That's why I like it. That's why I love. I talk to them almost every single week, but they're very forward thinking in that group as far as what's coming down the pipeline. So we're going to get into these conversations. He's going to talk about metaverse a little bit and et cetera. I got questions for you though, before we get into that.
I'm ready.
So we're just recently, while Boswell was on her month-long vacation in the Bahamas, we couldn't tape because Boswell was getting her margaritas or whatnot.
Yeah, it's clearly my fault.
Microsoft in acquisition of Activision Blizzard for $70 billion. Now it'll take a while to go
change. Pocket change.
In comparison, Instagram was bought for $1 billion. This is the largest acquisition.
Yes, this is crazy.
So all of this talk is about metaverse and gaming and what does that do? And this is my question for you. What do you see higher ed, universities, colleges changing based on elements of video games? So I'm not talking about taking classes via your, and you have to chop quizzes with your sword or anything. But are there any elements that come to mind with like, oh, you know what we could learn from esports or video games? Is there anything that comes to mind?
I mean, I think there's a ton we can learn from video games and from even this whole conversation around metaverse and just the digital and physical blending. I struggle with how we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. So we're struggling right now with virtual learning, campuses all over the country. I just read an article in the Chronicle this morning about it's weird. Like students are like, I'm allowed to join virtually if I have COVID, but I'm not allowed to join for anything else. I mean, we got to get past that if we're ever going to get to the place where we can learn and grow and truly embed ourselves in some of the technology that we're seeing being really used, popularized, and accepted in the game world. And I think that we have a ton to learn from that world, but we got to get on track with moving in that direction, because it's not like we're not going to jump from this to the metaverse. So how do we prepare for that now is kind of where my brain is. But I think there's some cool social aspects that we can like really engage in, especially with some of our online learnings and online students, and blending some of that campus culture. Like, how can we do that in a different way or different space? I think there's some really cool, ideas out there but we got to get there in terms of a mindset now so that we're ready for that. That's just where I'm at.
I love it. We're not going to be running like Usain Bolt if we're not even walking. Right. So if you're in university, you gotta be moving in that direction to get to that end goal. I had a cool conversation with a friend and former colleague that still works in higher ed, Ryan McDonald, and he had this idea. We play video games, right? We have Wednesday nights. I know, Aaron.
I remember you guys used to advise students that way. Like it was fun. Yeah.
I know you used to think I was cool, but I play video games on Wednesday evenings, and and he had this idea of seasons for universities where we play Call of Duty Warzone, right? Because we're super cool like that. And there's a season 1 package and season 2 package, and you like buy into these and you get NFTs with these, you get skins for your character, and certain like surprise elements come up. And like, if it's Halloween season, something happens during Halloween that changes how the game is played.
This feels very Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing is your version. But he had this idea, like, what if there are seasons, right? A season package of colleges and university, right? And then season 2 happens and you have to gamify and you're kind of have a digital presence. I just thought he said that. I was like, that is cool.
I especially think of the work you do towards like getting towards job, you know, like there's this like intro season very much focused on studying. And then there's this like, okay, I'm going to start to need to get into the internship season. So I think there's could be some cool like seasons around building your professional brand so that you're ready, you know, like I know you've worked in some of that gamification around it, but I do think this could be even like next level with it. If you will.
So I'm gonna go to my partner right after this. I'm gonna say, you know, Erin Boswell says I need to play more video games. I'm sorry. I can't put the kids to bed because I need to be gaming. That's what I'm hearing right now. More Xbox is professionally the way to go.
Okay. You know, I know your partner and they aren't going to believe that. So I'm just saying, don't try it. Don't try it.
Well, we're going to get into more of this conversation. We're going to talk about a little bit of metaverse and etc. with Joseph. Now, again, Joseph is at Archer, work with Archer a lot. Awesome people, creativity, strategy, future thinking as far as admissions, retention, that data of university. So I'm excited. Let's get into that interview.
Okay. So Joseph, let's just jump right in. With our first question. So how do you continue the engagement with the university once the student's there to help with the retention of especially online students? What's that look like?
So once we get them into the program and they're a student and we're looking at retention as well. Yeah, it's a really great question. And to me, where it really starts and where I really want universities that we partner with to start expanding their mindset with retention. I think that it's easy to kind of come in and think of retention as a product. You know, once they are now enrolled in the program, you have them, you know, learning and growing and meeting the faculty and the students. I think it's easy to just be like, okay, that's a box. Let's focus on that. But to me, where retention really becomes impactful and where at Archer, where we really believe we can make an impact with universities to make education more sustainable, accessible, and honestly affordable, is that we have to think about retention being a part of a journey. And to me, in order to get people to stay in a program, I'm a former teacher, right? I remember when I used to teach composition and rhetoric, my first day of class, what I wanted to make sure to do is I was teaching at FIU, I was 23. And I knew that once they saw me, they're like, oh, who's this young guy? I'm going to walk all over him. He's going to be my buddy. So what I would do is like the day one, I'd be like, listen, we are here to transform the way you think about writing. This class will not be easy. And I thought I would scare away, you know, a lot of people who didn't want to be there. I never did. And I couldn't believe it. And so I think that there's an element when you're in, you know, a school, there's the teachers play such a fundamental aspect of everything. But where markers can really support is setting it up from the very beginning. Thinking about retention, not when they're in the program, but when they see the first ad. Because the way that we think at Archer is, you know, storytelling propels that student journey. And it should be personalized for every single student along the way. What we do is we have storytelling, we have analytics people, we have engagement technology that we're actually using to communicate with people along that journey, to nurture them to become a student, to have them retain. So we're leveraging technology. But if that student from the very beginning doesn't have a sense of who they are today, who they want to be tomorrow, and the obstacles getting in the way of those students, and connecting and giving a story so that a student can feel empowered the whole journey on until they graduate, who cares about retention? You're already losing. You're already over. You're already done. And so I can talk about that a little bit more, because I think it's starting from the first touch point to think about retention. But I'll pause there and see if there's which way you guys want to go.
Yeah, retention is a huge part of the work I do. I work more with traditional kind of on-ground students, but I think you hit the nail on the head with that. It's not just this box you check. I mean, retention, and people get confused with that or think it's one person's job. Number one, I think retention is everyone's job. And if it's not going to be successful. And number two is retention is not one thing. It's a million little things. things, it's all those little things. I love what you said about kind of setting the goal too. I loved it. And do you guys have like a communication plan that keeps touch points with students, or what does that look like for you guys?
So that's run by, a lot of the really smart people on the student engagement team. Andy Moore is one of them. We have a really great strategist named, John Goodwin, and we have a ton of people that are really focused on this issue. And there is communications plans.
Yeah.
We have proprietary technology that is designed to literally kind of a choose your own adventure experience where students can ask questions, that can get a text message sent to them once they're a part of that journey. So retention is definitely run, and there's a communication plan. And that's definitely on other leaders in our company to kind of put that into place. So before I speak on their behalf, I know what they're doing is using technology to create automated personal experiences at scale so that there's always that touch point. And I think that's what really separates us. But that's a part of a journey. So that communication plan, it starts, in that first touch point when they see an ad. I'm going to tell you a great example of where I think that automation, that marketing automation, the digital experiences builds a student journey. We work with American University School of Education, and it's one of the clients outside of, things like Maryville University that I'm really proud about. There's a lot of programs we're really proud about. But what we really love about American School of Education is that we created this campaign called Raise Your Hand. Raise your hand if you want to transform education for everyone and more equity. Now you have master's in teachers programs, you have special education programs, you have doctorate programs, you have so many different programs in this school. But when we talked with each one of those faculty members and alumni, what they really cared about was, we have made promises as a country to support everyone. Well, the front line for them is the education system, and we're raising our hand. Now, what really struck me was the story of when we talked about retention. When we talked with some of the students, I'll never forget this story. It was a woman who started out, and she found out she wanted to be in the education policy program the day she found out that she couldn't have children. When she found out she couldn't have children, what she did is she says, you know what, I still have this desire to be a mom. So she went out and got a foster child. She got that foster child. She was doing research. She realized that foster child had learning challenges. Ultimately, what they discovered, it was autism. And she just got so interested in, discovering and learning. She's like, I want to be in the school system. I don't want to just help my child. I want to be in the school system. And so she became an interventionist. And she's in that school system. And what she saw was like, oh my God, I am ill-equipped as an interventionist in this school system because of how widespread this problem is. There's so many funding, there's so many policy challenges. That's when she saw our ad. That was raise your hand if you want to transform equity for everyone. And it was for a special education program. It was for a policy program, and it had personalized messaging. And then throughout that whole experience, she went in, she became a part of our nurturing and communication plan. But she became actually a part of our content strategy. But also that classroom experience, that motive continued. The classroom curriculum continued. So to me, retention, yes, you've got to have that engagement, marketing automation. You've got to have email nurturing. You've got to have social media, community. But if you don't have that why extending from the beginning to the end, then they're going to say, why am I doing this? And they're going to quit at scale, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. So telling the story of the why up front and getting the people who match your why. So we all know we're on the same, we're all working towards the same goal. That's really great. Thanks so much.
So Joseph, I hear you saying the why, and I know that's with the golden circle, Simon Sinek's why, and that's like the branding of what he's saying. So here's my question for you, getting to that branding, and it comes to retention as well as just recruitment and admissions of students. And I can only imagine, again, I don't see these numbers as much as both of you two, but I can only imagine that is exponentially more difficult online than it is on ground. For example, the Circle 7 restaurant that I go to all the time unhealthily, they would have to do a lot to lose me, right? They're right there. Great food, fantastic. On the other hand, the soap that I buy on Amazon, I mean, I see I think I have like Dr. Sasquatch simply because they had cool ads, but I'm not loyal to them, right? Next time I go on Amazon, I'm going to buy whatever I'm thinking of that time. So that branding, what do you think is the branding strategy for online universities where, let's be honest, right? All these universities have communication programs. All of these universities have psychology programs, all online. They're all online. They've got exams, they've got things, they've got these lectures and whatnot. How do you brand a university moving forward, right? It's the old ways. Old ways was like fight songs and traditions. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't give a shit. I don't care what your traditions like. That's who at least I am. And when I talk to students, they don't seem to really care about those things. What's the thing they care about? Whether it be traditional age or non-traditional students, what's the branding movement for colleges and universities moving forward?
It's a really great question. And it could go in so many different directions. I'll tell you what is near to my heart with this. Mm-hmm. It's almost like thinking about you as a marketer creating almost like and these are just thoughts that I'm forming mm-hmm. in the real time, especially with things like the metaverse coming out and mm-hmm. Seeing the way people market video games. But for me, like what really excites me is when you think about what a student really cares, it comes back to the journey. Mm-hmm. When I went to my MFA program, I didn't go to my MFA program because I wanted to study at FIU and meet these professors and students. Even though that was important to me, I wanted to figure out how to be a great novelist. And so to me, like that was so important in that journey, and having people to get me and mentor me along that way. But so when I say this, what I mean by that is when you're going through that journey and you're following Joseph Campbell's kind of hero's journey, in that process, you meet your allies, you meet your enemies, you meet the challenges, you meet your obstacles. And what I think is that a student is always going to need that experience, the customer experience, for a lack of sense, a better word. And for me, where I think we're going is we're going to start thinking more about the way video game creators create ecosystems for users to navigate through to ultimately get challenged, to learn, to grow. And it's a community, and it's almost like you're building an RPG. You're kind of thinking of that way. And I think we're already doing that at Archer. We have marketing automation that personalizes the experience, digital experience. We have storytelling and advertising that can precisely target somebody. And then we're thinking about that content and that branding work, literally helping them make choices in their life that are difficult and meaningful. So when you think about, okay, if that is a strategy that makes sense in a philosophical way, well, how does branding evolve? Well, the first thing is, in my opinion, this distinction between online and on campus needs to die. I just think it's ridiculous. And one of the reasons I think it's ridiculous is video. We are literally talking to each other from totally different parts of the country. There is no reason that we cannot have that experience that is shared together as classmates and as students in a way that is visual, is meaningful, is experiential. The campus as a physical location needs to die. And I tell you what, video, and this is one thing we're doing, we're actually using video in a new way. We're actually using video. There's so much B-roll at campus. Every campus has B-roll of their great videos. They have drone footages, but a lot of these universities, unfortunately, don't know how to use that in a way to get ROI on their marketing spend in these platforms. So we just do interviews remotely, combine that footage, and then have now TikTok videos, YouTube videos for a very reduced cost. I think faculty members, which I know, Dustin, you have been doing this for a long time, you are on the cutting edge of this, has that ability to say, no, hey, listen, we have the tools now to make the online campus a campus. Mm-hmm. Now, once we do that, now let's look out a year. Let's look 2 years. Let's look 3 years. Let's say Ready Player One, metaverse. Mm-hmm. That video game kind of philosophy VR maybe makes a lot more practical sense in a very tangible way. So I definitely think that the more that we realize that branding for the future of higher education is the journey, is the experience, and is customizing an ecosystem to allow them to become the person who they want to be and make the impact in the community they want to make, we have done what we wanted to do as educators, not just as marketers. Because I'll tell you what, I'm not in this because I care about, my ad spend, even though I do. I'm in this because I want to make a difference in people's lives at scale. And I think if we think like video game creators as journey makers, we are doing that.
So Joseph and Erin, I want to hear you. Tell me where I'm wrong here. Okay. Tell me where I'm wrong right here. And first, Joseph, you have to know this. I'm an only child and I try to make every conversation about myself as much as possible. So what is there a future?
And I'm the oldest child, so I try to boss him around as much as possible. So it all works out.
It all works out in the end. So, I think of like, University of Oregon is a super interesting brand because they're not talking about their history. They're talking about what's the new jerseys they wear this week, which is nothing like the jerseys they wore last week. What is that? I would love to hear more of your thoughts because I know Archer focuses on this. And I personally feel like this is the future that I don't hear too many other agencies talk about, is that the faculty, branding a faculty member rather than the logo. Here's why. If I just took a class with a professor at a university. He just made his own class, no credits associated to whatsoever. I was like, yes, I'll give you $1,000 to take that class because I've watched your YouTube videos. I've watched this free content for so long. Now I'm ready. I'm like, yes, I want to learn from you. If Gary Vaynerchuk was teaching at Ohio State, I bet the waiting list for that class would be 10,000. Or if Casey Neistat taught a videography class, like these individuals that have a following that not because they're celebrity necessarily, but because they like provide value for free on YouTube and Joseph, what do you talk about TikTok? Like that has to be a vehicle to get, say, students come in, take these courses. If you like these courses, other courses we have are also built the exact same way. Where am I wrong there? Should we be leading with the faculty voice or no? We're not trying to lead with faces. We're trying to lead with brands of like logos and whatnot. What do both of you think?
Yeah, Erin, do you want to go first? If you want to, please go ahead. I have thoughts too. If you want me to go first too.
I'm struggling a little bit because I think there's a little bit of privilege in what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I think that you already have this degree, you already have this job. So you have this set of privilege that's like, I just want to go and learn for the sake of learning and getting better. Whereas I think there's a whole group of individuals out there that they need that degree to get that next job, to get that promotion. And so learning just for the sake of learning, and wanting to go to the super famous person, and even if it's not for credit, I think comes with a little bit of that, like, okay, but I'm already at the point I want to be. I'm upscaling. And I think both of those are super valid in the learning space, but I do think there is a definite different market out there that's like, no, I need to get this degree because I have to get this job. And for right or for wrong, that piece of paper or that degree is still kind of an entryway to a lot of different spaces as we stand right now. So that's just one thing that kind of popped off my head as you were talking about it. I don't know that one way is right or wrong, but I definitely think they're attracting different populations.
I see that.
Yeah, and I can understand where you're coming from on that, Erin, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think, Dustin, to kind of like focus on that in an area where you don't have to worry about. I mean, I think that privilege piece is really important when we talk about, especially a lot of these, like, let's say it's like, there's many different degree types where people are just going into it because they just need to get that credential, they need to get that career. Maybe just for a second, talk about master's degrees and graduate level degrees. Yeah. When you think about that, I think there is a massive, massive advantage to making faculty a part of your strategy for a couple different reasons, which I'll go into. But I want to start with, because you're going to get no bigger supporter of this than probably me and Archer, especially on that graduate level and in other areas. But I want to talk about one of the concerns I have first, which is not something I normally do. The more that you make it like a masterclass model, the more that you're saying, hey, come study with James Patterson to be a writer, or study with Santana to learn guitar. I get concerned about the pedagogy, and I get concerned about, are we investing the marketing dollars in an education that is meaningful and moves people to, and I think it's really important, is that coming back to the journey analogy, well, what does this education play in the journey? Is it for you to get a credential? Are you trying to become a registered nurse? Well, great. Let's make that content, that communication about that end goal. Well, are you trying to get a master's in computer science? I think your faculty are going to probably be a more meaningful part of your decision than anything else on that graduate level degree. But I don't think people should be choosing education based on personality. They should be choosing education based on, how are you setting up the classroom? What is your philosophy behind your classroom? What does that mean for my journey? And how will I get to whatever it is that I want to go to? And I think it's really important too, especially as you start thinking about these things like the future of the metaverse, or, TikTok and YouTube. Getting to know your faculty and what they care about is so valuable for so many different reasons. Number one, it helps that faculty member with their own personal thought leadership. It gives, now all of a sudden say, hey, faculty member, we want you to be a part of the marketing, but we're not going to do it just because it's an obligation for you. Now, this could be a part of developing your brand and getting your research out there. So I think that there's so many directions to go on the value of faculty to, I know if I have a video of a faculty member, if I could ever do this on Snapchat or on Facebook, my costs are going to be so low, because if that faculty member is talking passionately about what they care about, that's talking to the student directly in a way that's authentic and meaningful. Well, let's do more of it. So Erin, I definitely hear your point, but I think that there's a lot of ways to do this the right way in my mind, and not do it the wrong way too. So, yeah.
And Erin, I think you had a question on data.
I do. I totally do. Thank you. As we move into thinking about all of the decisions we're making, I think data is so important in driving, looking at behavior, looking at, what should we market in what area, that's so important. But sometimes I think universities get overwhelmed with the amount of data they're collecting and don't know how to use it at all sometimes, so what do you think is the best way to help institutions really hone in on that data and use what's most meaningful to them for the biggest impact?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And this is one that, we could talk about, probably a whole episode about, but I know that there was this one stat that just to talk about how there's too much data. It changes the way that you think as an education institution. There's some data out there on the drop of the humanities degree. And it was like 7.5% drop in enrollment in humanities, by far the largest. And don't quote me exactly on that number. I was looking it up. But all of a sudden, if you go to your kind of university and you say, hey, listen, I have a 7.5% drop in enrollment in humanities degrees. We're seeing another drop of enrollment, about 1% though, which is not great, but clearly our other STEM focused degrees are more financially viable. Let's cut the humanities. It's like you could make those arguments if you start looking at data in that way, and you forget the nuance, you forget you're in education. And what scares me sometimes about the data is that, we are so business focused. We got to remember that we are a higher education. And what does higher education play in the value of our society? And so for me, humanities, is a great example. I think you have to get more nuanced. Maybe our products in the humanities are really bad. It's not that the value of higher education in the humanities is going away. I mean, I don't know what our company would be without, I have an English degree. I have an MFA. I don't know what some of our even data analytics teams would be like if we didn't have people coming. Our CTO had an English degree from Penn. You know, so it's like, you know, if we lose that skill set, what does that do? So, but now when we look at, but Dustin, it looks like, were you going to say something there or, oh no. Okay. Go ahead.
You know, I agree. I think it's the differentiator when it comes to so many organizations that are leading into tech. We need the digital engineers and we need coders and whatnot to build the tech, but what's the differentiator, right? What makes one organization, what makes Apple so much different than Android? It's what you're talking about, is that humanity background to be able to think critically, think about cultures differently, think about that end goal. Totally agree with you. Totally agree.
So that's where data in our hands, if we just start taking things so black and white, becomes problematic. And I think that's a very extreme hyperbolic example of the challenges of data, because I do not believe data is just, there is nuance or story in data, and it can be shaped by people. And so, for instance, one of the biggest things that concerns me about higher education's ability to market efficiently to reduce the cost of education for their students is attribution. I think attribution and marketing channels is obviously so important. But what I know is that if I have a Facebook channel, I have a Google search channel, and I have an organic channel, and that's all my university partners are seeing, and they're seeing I'm spending let's say $100,000 in Facebook, $100,000 in Google search. But when they look at it and they look down funnel because of the way the attribution is set up, it looks like everything's coming from organic, a little bit of paid search, and nothing from Facebook. But what I know is that Facebook, you should have a good cost per enrollment in Facebook, but Facebook doesn't, if you do it right, doesn't operate last click. It doesn't operate last click. And, you know, you're going to lose your tracking, especially when you're working with universities and their programs who don't have an advanced analytics infrastructure. So black and white decision-making with data is super problematic in my mind in higher education institutions. And we need to figure out if we're going to get into Snapchats, we're going to get into TikToks. That's not going to show up on last click enrollment. And then we're going to be stuck in Facebook. We're going to be stuck in Google search. Our cost per traffic is going to go up massively because everyone's going to be doing it and no one's going to be innovating. So to me, that's a problem with the data right now and having too much of it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Dustin, I can go. I completely agree. I think there's so much data right now. It is just hard to know what to digest, what to look at, you know. And I think sometimes you've got people looking at one piece of data when we really need to be, you know, looking at those. Like you said, it can't be black and white. We've got to be looking at multiple factors and all of that. It gets very complicated. And I mean, it's just hard. I feel like there's a overwhelming like need to collect it. I just don't know if we figured out what we're supposed to be doing with it yet. You know, it's kind of that data swamp right now instead of a data lake, right? So
I think we can learn a lot from Facebook and how they, learn some and then use it ethically, right? we can manage that one. But like, how easy is it on Facebook to use lookalike audiences? Super easy. It's like one click for lookalike audience. If universities and colleges just think of their data the exact same way, and we can use lookalike audience data, right? That same algorithm to say, we can guess that this student may struggle at this point in their academic career. So we know to front load and start pushing before they're even asking for it, for tuition assistance or for tutoring assistance, whatever the case may be, any assistance. We know the model can say this lookalike situation can help.
That is a great point. And I think that's really where universities should be using data to understand their students on a level that is meaningful. And right now, I think we may just be using it to, like, there's a lot of people that do it right. Like, we have an analytics team and a product team at Archer that are scientists, and they know how to talk about data, but it's a hard thing to change a larger culture of higher education to have a nuanced way to go about it. And maybe I'm reading this book called Simple Rules. And just having like simple rules for us to kind of look at data and stop overthinking the data. I mean, it's like we did a great ad campaign and we were a storefront and we had people showing up to all of a sudden because when we turned on the ad campaign, we don't have that attribution there showing up in the store, but hey, they're showing up in the store. Something must be going right. Mm-hmm. I think a little bit of common sense in data would be a little helpful too, and not overthinking it as well.
Yeah. And you think about higher ed, so much of the work we do and the practice we do is based on theory that was built in a time that was so different than what we're doing now. So you even think about retention theory. I mean, it was popularized in the 60s, in the 70s. Our student body looked totally different. The way that they, the things that they interact with is totally different. And not that there's not new people adding to that research, but I do think it's important to say, why don't we step back and instead of always looking at retention from this standpoint with this exact data, why don't we step back and look at what we have access to and what are students telling us when we look at different pieces of data and how they're responding. So yeah, it's just, how do we get out of that framework?
Well, you just said there reminded me of something John Goodwin says a lot. And if I'm quoting him wrongly, I hope he'll forgive me. He forgives he's a very, very great person. But he often says speed to lead, like we're talking about retention strategies. He says speed to lead is dead. It's speed to engagement. Yeah. Like we have to, like, even that's a heuristic, right? Like that's a simple rule that should be probably updated, to something like that. But.
So Joseph, when we talk about data, I'd love to hear just your quick off the top creative spirit, right? I come from the strategic communication agency, Align Kennedy and whatnot. I just want to hear your off the cuff, your strategy here. So let's say I am a 40-year-old single mother in Nebraska.
You 4-year-old single mother? I don't know.
40.
40.
40.
I don't know if that's possible.
We're going to get real out there. Okay. 40-year-old single mother in Nebraska. I'm a welder. I make pretty good money. I don't need to change. I said, welders make good money. But you know what? I've always had an interest and I've been kind of artistic. I'm kind of interested in this design stuff in my free time. I don't know if I want to go back to school for something, whatnot. I've got all these options, right? I mean, I could go to school in California, Arizona, any online whatsoever. How do you get that person? So if you're brainstorming and you are the marketing, branding guru here, whatever university it is, X university, how does X university woo and tell the why that you talked about earlier for that student?
Well, the first thing I would do, and this might sound a little counter, is evaluate, is that person a consistent archetype that I am seeing? Because I know that when I'm building a marketing comm strategy, I have to think about how am I going to find that person? So if they're a consistent archetype, I'm going to say, okay, great. So I'm going to look at the data. I'm going to see how many people come from that kind of a background, have that kind of a journey. And let's say, okay, great. We have now determined that this person, someone who's coming from what we traditionally call a blue collar field, that has an element of creativity and, working with your hands, a part of it. Okay, let's now understand who is that archetype. What I would do is I would get on the phone and talk to that person. And I'd want to know, like, okay, wait a second. So you're a single mom. Like, tell me about your decision in this process and what it means for you. Because I imagine being a single mom and having a really good job and wanting to go back to school, that has to be a hard decision. So my first question would be like, well, tell me about your passion. Why do you want to do this? Well, hypothetically, let's say, when they're working at night, they often work on their welding and they're making sculptures, and they just enjoy it. They just love creativity. They love play and they want to get beyond it. They want to make a little bit more money being a more creative field. Being a welder, you might be already satisfied with that. But then I'm going to ask, all right, why are you going back to school? And how do you want to do it? What is the modality? Are they quitting? Do they are they going to quit their job and go school full time? Or are they going to work at night? What is the challenges? So depending on those questions, the messaging and the architecture of that journey is going to be very different. And let's say that user is going to be going to work at night, and they're a welder, right? And now we've seen that there's many people coming from this blue collar kind of trade background. And we see that most of them have said, hey, we're not quitting our jobs. I'm going to work with my family. I'm going to keep going. Well, I can tell you already, I'm going to be putting something Rosie the Riveter up there on an ad that's talking about how like it's time for you to prioritize your creative journey. I'm going to talk about how in this imaginary university that I'm going to create, that this university is designed for individuals like you who have working families. Maybe it's async. Maybe it's a different modality. I'm going to focus on the modality of the education so that they know that they can fit in their lives. But I'm also going to talk about them about their passion, because the only thing that's going to get through them through those nights, single parent, to a job, school, is you gotta love it. You gotta believe in it. You gotta believe in yourself. So I'm going to invest every bit of design and story to help them remember the why, and then focus on the how to get them in the door. So that's a tough question, but I think we could speak to that person.
Well, Boswell's been talking about starting her own university someday, and I'm sure her first hire is you, Joseph.
Yeah. I really think you can, like, we have a senior VP in our company who is always like, we know how to market to nurses. But what about that class he calls it the underwater basket weaving class?
Yep.
You have a faculty member that believes in it, right? Yep. We think that there should be some market analysis. Should you offer underwater basket weaving? But say you come to me and you say, hey, I have underwater basket weaving. We believe we can find your audience by really, if costs are going to go up to get to that person, but there's probably somebody out there who believes in this and cares about it. Well, we know how to find it.
I love it. Well, speaking of finding the right people for the right job and the right ad for the right, campaign, who do you think we need on Disrupt You? So who do you know in the scope of higher ed or tech or forward thinking? Who do you think we should reach out to?
Oh, anybody at Inside Track or Donald Learn, or Ease Learning. All of those people are amazing. Jeff Herbst is at the Winston Project. That actually, Jeff, you probably want on it. There's a lot of people out there, and of course, I'm talking about people outside of Archer, because one of the things that I've realized is this is a really small community, and you got to support each other and value each other. But yeah, there's a lot of people at Donald Learn. They're really doing some really. Dustin, you love talking to them about their kind of faculty, kind of the way they're thinking about building learning systems. Inside Track just really cares. In our own company, I recommend Carolyn Khalili. She is someone who is, I think, Dustin, you of course, we hung out with you guys in St. Louis. Rockstar, and she's thinking about audience intelligence and personas in this way that we've been talking about. George Bradley is great when it comes to PR and storytelling. And then we have Angie Moore in our company, who is the head of our student engagement. And, when with your interest in retention, you would be silly not to talk to her about that. She's pretty special when it comes to that kind of stuff. So those are the people at the top of my mind. But I'm trying to think of one more. I think that's hopefully that helps. Yeah.
That's a pretty good list. I mean, we could fill the whole season with that. So yeah.
All right, Joseph, we got one last question. We always ask the same question as the last.
The Super Bowl one.
Yep, this is the big one. So before we get to that one,
I've been thinking a lot about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to first thank you for Joseph, an avid listener to the show. He knows the vital one, but I do want to thank you for being on the show, taking some time out of your schedule and brainstorming with us. So thank you.
You've been great. You've been honestly, Dustin, we love working with you and any way we can and just getting some time with you. And Erin, it's great to meet you. And so I'm happy to be on. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, so thanks. Here's the big question here. You get a free Super Bowl commercial. It's coming up, right? $5 million or so for a 30-second commercial. You cannot sell Archer. So you can't be getting brownie points or anything like that. It's not selling Archer. It has to be something that you're passionate about. What are you selling in your 30-second Super Bowl commercial?
Okay, I forgot what I'm passionate about. So I'll tell you the one I came up with first, and you'll laugh at it. But the one that I'm really passionate about, I mean, just if my novel eventually gets finished, which I finished 4 of them. I went for an MFA. I have essays and published stories. I had 30 seconds on why you should buy my novel. But what I thought would have been really funny. I'm really interested in kind of personally, what I'm very passionate about is simulation theory, the multiverse, kind of this, quantum mechanics and all this stuff, like just from like a philosophical point of view, like Schrodinger's cat, like Dark Matter to me is like one of the coolest novels. And I think it'd be really funny to just like mess with everybody and like somehow in 30 seconds convince the entire world that they're living in a simulation or that they're a part of some other they're on a parallel track to another universe, and this is you from another. I don't know. You could do so many fun things to mess with people, It's just, which is manipulative, but it's kind of like Orson Welles, famous radio. So I don't know. I could either do that or anything about mental health. If you have 30 seconds to remind people to be gentle with themselves and seek help, that would be good too. I'd rather do the simulation theory thing.
Awesome. This reminds me of The Office when Jim's sending Dwight faxes from his future self, I think. Or
there
something
you
like
go.
That.
There you go. Yeah. That'd be really funny. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Disrupt You. Have a question for the host? Just send that over to Dr. York via Twitter at Prof. D. York, and it could be featured on the show. We'll see you next week for another dive into the future of higher education.